Hello and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump addressed a joint session of Congress. His first message, in fact, since taking office for the second time. Trump said America is working tirelessly to end the conflict in Ukraine that has needlessly killed millions of Russians and Ukrainians. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine, adding the United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense. Trump said, here's more.
Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea, but that's what happens. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them. If they do non-monetary tariffs to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market.
Trump also took a jab at Washington's European allies, saying they spent more on Russian oil and gas than defending Ukraine, while the US carries that burden. Now, Trump said Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky has told him Kiev was in fact ready for talks with Russia and the finalization of a US minerals deal as well. Now, this is days after a White House clash.
Europe has spent by billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't have stopped it and said at some point, come on, let's equalize. You got to be equal to us. But that didn't happen. Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
President Donald Trump has given his joint address to Congress. And, as has been the case since he launched his first presidential campaign a decade ago, immigration was a large undercurrent. In his remarks, Trump aimed to blame economic struggles and crime in the U.S. on what he characterized as Democratic failures to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. The president talked about actions he's already taken in executive orders, but Trump also called on Congress for their help in passing some of his proposals into law. Another focus area for Trump was tariffs, which the president said could mean temporary stress for Americans, but ultimately help domestic industry. Partisan divides were on display during Trump's remarks. Republicans gave the president multiple standing ovations and loud cheers. Democrats never stood during his speech and rarely applauded. Some Democratic members held signs critical of Trump and even left the chamber early. One was escorted out after refusing to sit down. For Democrats, Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin gave her party's response, focusing largely on the economy.
And after President Donald Trump's tariffs have rattled the U.S. economy, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has said that fentanyl deaths must decrease if the US is to meet Canada and Mexico, quote unquote, in the middle, with an announcement expected as early as Wednesday. Following Trump's address to Congress, Lutnick mentioned that Canada made the US an excellent offer, in fact, on more efforts on the border Tuesday, and talks are ongoing with the president to determine the next steps. Listen in.
Fentanyl deaths in America need to come down, right? It's black and white. Autopsy, fentanyl deaths in America need to come down. They need to come down from Mexico and Canada.
The geopolitical sands of West Asia are shifting once again. Now, this as Arab leaders have unanimously agreed on a 5-year, $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza without displacing Palestinians, to counter US President Donald Trump's proposal to, in fact, take over the coastal enclave. Meanwhile, Israel, which is maintaining a blockade on all food, medicine and aid into the enclave, has slammed the proposal, while the White House itself has reiterated that Trump stands by his vision for the Strip. The UK-India partnership will strengthen further with the opening of 2 new Indian consulates in Belfast and Manchester, boosting regional economic ties and delivering on the growth agenda. Now, this comes as the UK welcomes Indian investment deals worth more than £100 million, which is creating jobs, strengthening growth, and helping working people by putting more money, in fact, in their pockets. Now, before opening the consulates, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met with UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy at the Chevening House. At Chevening, the foreign ministers drove forward the UK-India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Now, this focused on fostering mutual economic growth, technological innovation, and collaboration on global challenges, including climate change as well. They also discussed Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine, the West Asia, and other global affairs. The punishment for mutiny in colonial times, a way to discourage desertion during the Civil War, a dose of frontier justice in the Old West, and now, some 150 years later, a possibly more humane alternative to lethal injection. Firing squads have a long and storied history in America. South Carolina on Friday is scheduled to conduct the first firing squad execution in the US in 15 years. Brad Sigmund, who was convicted of killing his ex-girlfriend's parents with a baseball bat back in 2001, elected that method over the 2 other available in the state, the electric chair and the lethal injection. Listen in.
We have 6 methods of execution in this country. I think firing squad is the least inhumane method. So I can understand an inmate selecting it. That makes sense. To me, it's the better choice for an inmate if I were somebody representing that person.
Attackers launched 2 suicide bombings to breach a wall at a military base in northwestern Pakistan, while others stopped the compound and were repelled in violence that killed at least 9 people and injured another 25. Now, a group affiliated with the Pakistan Taliban militant group claimed responsibility for the attack in Bannu. This is in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, and said dozens of Pakistani security forces were killed. The military, however, did not immediately confirm any casualties, but Bannu District Hospital said at least 9 people were dead. And a trial of 40 prominent opposition figures, including politicians, lawyers, media personalities, and even business leaders accused of conspiring against state security, began on Tuesday in Tunisia. It's a move defense lawyers and activists decried as a breach of, in fact, fair trial standards. Only those released on bail attended in person, while families of the detained and protesters outside the courthouse demanded transparency and the physical presence of all the accused. Now, the trial unfolds amid escalating tensions between President Said's government, and opposition factions which accuse him of authoritarian drift. Since 2021, dozens of critics have faced arrest under broadly defined security law. Said supporters, meanwhile, they argue that the crackdown is necessary to stabilize the nation grappling with inflation, unemployment, and peaking corruption. As Pope Francis entered his 3rd week in a hospital battling pneumonia, hundreds of pilgrims, or faithfuls as they are called, continued to make their way to this hilltop town to pray at the tomb of Saint Francis, the hometown medieval saint whom the pontiff chose as his papal name. Groups from all over Italy made their way through a town of grey and brown stone houses that look like little has changed from when in fact the saint was born here more than 840 years ago. Now, St. Francis, whose name was chosen by the current Pope, symbolizes love for the poor, peace and creation, all key priorities for the pontiff. Listen in.
Francis, stepping himself, came back to nature in some sense. So we must receive nature as a gift of God and respect this gift.
And NASA's two astronauts are just a few weeks away from finally returning to Earth after 9 months in space and stranded. Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams have to wait until their replacements arrive at the International Space Station, or the ISS, next week before they can check out later this month. They'll be joined by their SpaceX ride home by two astronauts who launched by themselves in September alongside 2 empty seats. Listen in.
I have 2 Labrador retrievers right now, Gunner and Rotor, who have been having boy time with my husband, and I think they'll be very happy for Mom to come home. So I'm excited to see my labs when I get back. And yes, these were Gorby's footprints.
The American state of Florida has launched a criminal investigation, indeed, into British-American influencers Andrew and Kristen Tate, who flew to the States last week from Romania, where they faced rape and human trafficking charges. They still do. Florida's Attorney General James Atmaya said investigators have issued search warrants and even subpoenas as a part of a now active inquiry. In the US, the brothers also face a civil suit from a woman alleging they coerced her into sex work and then defamed her after she gave evidence to Romanian authorities. The brothers strongly deny all of these allegations levied against them. A Texas rapper and his 5-year-old daughter were gunned down in broad daylight by 2 people accused of opening fire at their vehicle set at a car wash near Fort Worth. Forest Hill police officers were called to Slappy's car wash just before 11 a.m. Monday for reports of a shooting, the police department said in a news release. Both victims were pronounced dead at the scene. Now, family members identified them as 30-year-old Ronnie Smith. He was a rapper who performs under the name G Dollar Little Ronnie, and his daughter Armani. The girl had just in fact celebrated her 5th birthday on Sunday. This is according to the police. A suspect has also been identified and an active warrant for capital murder has also been issued. Meanwhile, authorities say they are not ready to release the suspect's name as the investigation continues. Lava from a Hawaii volcano shot into the sky Tuesday in tall fountains that were expected to grow even bigger as part of an off-and-on eruption. The eruption began on the 23rd of December in a crater at the summit of Mount Kilauea, one of the world's most active volcanoes in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park on the Big Island. Now, Tuesday was the eruption's 12th episode. What began in the morning with small sporadic flows became continuous fountain by the afternoon, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory said. They reached 150 to 165 feet, or 45 to 60 meters, and were expected to grow further. A webcam showed a vigorous fountain of bright red lava. No residential areas have been threatened by the eruption. People have been, in fact, flocking to overlook sites inside the park for views of the fiery show. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report on NDTV with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Now, China will make efforts to vigorously boost consumption and investment returns and stimulate domestic demand across the board as one of the major tasks for 2025. Now, this is according to the government work report delivered by Chinese Premier Li Kang at the opening meeting of the 3rd session of the 14th National People's Congress, or the NPC, on Wednesday. The country's national legislature opened its annual session Wednesday morning at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping and other leaders attended the opening meeting. Now, according to the report, the country will enhance efforts to increase the diversified supply of health, elderly care, child care, and domestic services, and it will boost the growth of digital, green, smart, and other emerging forms of consumption as well. It will also focus on unlocking the consumption potential in sectors including culture, tourism, and sports. A U.S. court on Tuesday denied billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk a prelim injunction he was seeking against ChatGPT maker OpenAI's efforts to in fact convert into a for-profit firm in the U.S. U.S. District Judge Vion Gonzalez Rogers in Oakland, California, said Musk has not met the high burden required for a prelim injunction to block the conversation of OpenAI, rather the conversion of OpenAI to a for-profit status. However, Rogers said that she is prepared to expedite a trial on the issue to later this year. Disney is planning to cut about 200 positions or 6% of staff at ABC News Group and the Disney Entertainment Network unit, the Wall Street Journal reported. The layoffs are expected to be announced as early as Wednesday, the report said, citing one person familiar with knowledge of the cuts. The ABC shows 2020 and Nightline are consolidating into one unit, adding that the ABC would be eliminating the political and data-driven news site 538, which had about 15 employees. According to reports, Goldman Sachs also plans to trim its staffing by 3% to 5% in an annual performance review process this spring. Now, that would equate to more than 1,395 job cuts from the bank's global workforce of 46,500 at the end of December 2025. The last time the Wall Street firm conducted a similar review in September, it made smaller reductions. Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini confidently denied any wrongdoing after departing from Swiss Federal Criminal Court at the end of the first day of their fraud retrial, which started in fact on Monday this week. While Platini called the proceedings complex, but reiterated that the case remained unchanged since their 2022 acquittal. It's just back pay, no corruption, no scheme, said Platini. I trust justice, but not journalists, he added. We've done nothing wrong. It will be difficult to prove otherwise, said Blatter on the other hand. The retrial is set to continue through to Thursday, with the verdict anticipated on the 25th of March. Now, both Blatter and Platini, the duo, in fact, had returned to a federal court from nearly 3 years after they were acquitted at a first trial in July 2022 on charges of fraud, forgery, and misappropriation of FIFA money. Meanwhile, Swiss federal prosecutors appealed against those verdicts as well. Polar swimmers in the Czech Republic set a new world record on Saturday for the largest polar bear dip, spending at least 1 minute in a freezing lake. A total of 2,461 participants were involved in this successful attempt in the most lake in the northwest of the country. The previous record was of 1,799 swimmers who participated in the polar bear dip in Melino, Poland, on the Baltic Sea on the 15th of February back in 2015. Now, this is according to the Guinness World Records. For the record to be recognized, the participants had to wear swimsuits, be at least waist deep in water, and stay there together for at least 1 minute. Superstar Shakira on Monday evening delighted fans by making a brief appearance on Monday night outside of her hotel in Chile's Santiago. Now, this came following the cancellation of a concert. The small crowd behind safety barriers snagged along with her, and at one point, many got close enough to snap photos and film the sing-along. The production company Phoenix Entertainment announced that the suspension of a second Shakira concert in Chile's capital just 1 day after the Colombian singer's team in fact suspended the first date in South American country due to security issues. Now, this followed technical problems, they announced. Lily James, Mingyu and Christine Milioti were among the stars in attendance at the Dior's Fall 2025 show in Paris. Now, inside the venue, the past and present collided like in a dreamlike spectacle where Maria Grazia Chiuri riffed on Raft, both literally and literally. Inspired by Orlando, Virginia Woolf's time and gender-traveling protagonist, the ready-to-wear collection spun historical silhouettes into a vision of fluid, ever-evolving femininity. If this is indeed one of Chiuri's last collections, as rumors suggest, she is leaving on a high. An oversized puppet of US President Donald Trump paraded in Brazil's northeastern city of Olinda in the final days of the carnival festivities. Satirizing political figures and celebrities, the giant puppets are in fact a part of Olinda's vibrant carnival, drawing thousands of locals and tourists every year. followed by revelers dancing to the rhythm of traditional carnival marcianas. They filled the narrow and colorful streets of the town with their faces humorously exaggerated. Next to US President Donald Trump, there were figures of Brazilian actress Fernanda Torres, nominated for an Oscar for the movie I'm Still Here, and soccer players like Pele and Messi. The giant puppets of Olinda have their origins in medieval European tradition, in fact, and have been part of the city's tradition ever since 1932. And a buck-toothed llama that spends its days comforting chronically ill children at a camp funded by NASCAR royalty in North Carolina has been crowned, in fact, the world's oldest llama in captivity. The 27 years and more than 250 days, the selfie and snuggle-loving White Top dethroned Dalai Lama, Guinness World Records announced last week. Now, White Top was donated to the Victory Junction in 2006, just 2 years after race driver Kyle Petty and his family founded the camp in honor of his son. Adam Petty, his son, was 19 when he was killed in a 2000 crash practicing for a race. That's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful Wednesday.